welcome to the another insightful episode of Entrepreneurs Cafe. I am Nikunj Thakkar, your host, and in today's episode, we are going to have a conversation with Ankit Dudhwewala. He is a founder of SoftwareSuggest and CallHippo. He is a non-technical bootstrap founder based out of Ahmedabad, building a global business. We are going to have a very insightful conversation with Ankit today. But before we jump into the episode, if you are listening for this episode for the first time, do like, subscribe, and follow our podcast. Welcome to the show, Ankit.
Thank you, Nikunj. Thank you for having me here.
So let's start from your initial journey. I think you have done your master's from NMIMS and then you started a company called SoftwareSuggest. How did this idea of SoftwareSuggest came up and what was the initial motivation of starting the company?
So, Nikunj, for after I finished my MBA, I worked for about 2.5 years in my pharmaceutical business, in our pharmaceutical business, which was my family business. And there we were struggling with finding the right software for the company. So we started the entire process way back, I think in 2009. We found one software. In fact, the first attempt was to engineer a software ourselves. I did not know that we were actually building SaaS, but I got hold of some people and asked them to engineer the software for us. One big problem which was happening then, and very interesting problem, is that out of 1,000 invoices which was generated, in one invoice the value will become zero. So we had put 20 products, let's say worth 2, 3, 4 lakh. I don't remember. I mean, out of all these 1,000 invoices, one will become zero, and this was something which the engineering team was not able to figure out why it was happening. We had outsourced it, and the company tried to figure it out. They spent about 2 months to understand why this was happening, and this was very critical. So we thought we stopped using that software, switched to something else. That again, the implementation of the new software, I will not name the software, was also not successful. It was again based out of Ahmedabad. Then I did not live in Ahmedabad, but I found this company in Ahmedabad, and we wasted another 1 year trying to find this particular company, and only the third implementation was actually successful. The third implementation was by a company named CBO, which was based out of Delhi. That is when I felt that there's a need for an online platform which could help Indian businesses find softwares. That's how Software Suggest came into existence.
In layman terms, if you were to explain SoftwareSuggest, how would you explain what it does and what kind of value proposition it offers to its users?
In layman terms and very easy to understand terms, Zomato help people find restaurants. Car Deco helps people find cars. Policy Bazaar helps people find policies. Software Suggest help companies find softwares.
In terms of revenue model, how does it operate?
So we have a similar model like Zomato, Car Deco, Policy Bazaar. Something similar, not exactly similar. We earn revenue through advertisement placed on the website and through lead generation for the software companies.
So these companies who list on the platform, they basically pay you to boost the listing that is there on the platform or the leads data that you provide to them.
Absolutely, and then there are other methods like placing banner advertisement and subtle marketing to all our visitors is different methods which we use.
So in most of the marketplace solution, you have to balance both these sides, right? You have to bring enough softwares to be listed,
Right.
and then you have to bring enough traffic for people to list the software. So how did you tackle this challenge in initial days?
This is a problem we understood at the very outset. The problem with marketplace is that you need to build two sites at the same time, and it becomes very difficult to build two sites at the same time. And the solution is that you start controlling one side, or you make one side easy to be built. Now, if you look at Amazon, what Amazon is doing is they have Cloudtail and other companies where they become the seller themselves, and they manage the sell side. The buy side they cannot control, so they manage the sell side. What we realize is that when building Software Suggest, again, sell side could easily be managed. Instead of waiting for software companies to come online and list on our platform, we went ahead and listed them ourselves. We listed about 3,000 different companies in 1 month's time on the platform, and then asked them to verify those details. We kept sending emails. We kept trying to reach out to these companies and ask them to improve the details which they had. Eventually, that started happening and Software Suggest became popular. But at the outset, what we did was created this sell side ourselves, so we could only focus on the buy side.
And in terms of buy side strategies, like what kind of strategies did you apply to bring enough traffic or enough people on the platform?
So we started Software Suggest in January. So we launched it in February, mid of February 2014. Nothing happened for the first 6 7 months. I was almost about to close the platform. I called a friend called Pratik and I told him that nothing is happening. And then this guy was like, "तूने SEO किया है क्या?" So right now our entire platform is actually based around search engine optimization. And I said, "Yeah, SEO होता क्या है?" And then he said that do something. Go to this website called Web CEO. I don't know if Web CEO is there or not. Web CEO is another competitor for HRF and SEMrush, and read something around Web CEO. Read their blogs. I went, read their blog. There, I read one name which was called Neil Patel. Went to Neil Patel's website, and this happened in like 2 days time. So I probably would have talked to him on Wednesday or a Thursday. I don't remember when. But then Saturday morning, I was completely free. Saturday morning, I started reading Web CEO. Read Web CEO for continuous 36, 37 hours, and Neil Patel for continuous 36, 37 hours. That was my learning around SEO. I learned everything around SEO, whatever I could, made my notes, and started implementing search engine optimization SEO strategies on SoftwareSuggest from Monday morning. Waited for about 2 3 months, then it was much easier than what it is now, and that's how we started getting traction. Our website started ranking. There were a lot of pages on SoftwareSuggest which started ranking, and when you rank on Google, people come to you. That's how the traction, the buy side started building.
So over the period of time, I think initial like SEO strategy worked really well, and then initial like over the period of time, what all strategy you have applied to bring more traffic and continue the momentum?
Even right now, about 70 80% is Google, if not search engine optimization. Maybe probably 40 50% might be search engine optimization. The rest might be performance marketing. And then there are other marketing techniques like email and other guerrilla marketing techniques, but that contributes only 15 to 20% of our buy side.
After like this journey, you have also started CallHippo. So how did that idea came up, and why did you venture into like building another product?
When I was running Software Suggest became popular. We are the market leader in the Indian market, and we were the innovators in the Indian market. There was nothing like Software Suggest in Indian market. And then there were a couple of people from NASCOM who wanted to do this, and they moved out from NASCOM and started Product Nation, which is now called SaaS Boomi. Yeah. It has now been renamed to SaaS Boomi. Avinash, who is one of the founders of SaaS Boomi, is also a mentor friend both now. He invited to me something to me to something which was called SaaS X then. Now it is called SaaS Boomi Annual. It was SaaS X2 which I attended, and in SaaS X2 I saw Girish Matributtam, the founder of, and this was a closed group setup, 150 people only. And just because I knew Avinash, he suggested I attend this. In this here I saw Girish Matributtam for the first time, and I just loved what he was doing. He made a couple of statements in that event. He said that I never built a product, never built fresh desk for the Indian market. Then it was called Fresh Desk. I just love that. He said at the very outset we were only billing in dollars. We never billed in rupees. And I did not know that sitting in India I could actually build a product for the global market. Of course, I did know about Infosys and TCS, but did not know much about building SaaS from India for the global market. Until then, it was not even SaaS for me. It was only softwares, and the biggest and prime software was Tally for me. Until then, I did not know much about Zoho and Freshworks. That is when I learned about Freshworks and how beautifully you can sit in India and make products for the global market. And when I came back to Ahmedabad, I said, "मेरे को ये करने का है. This is what I want to. This is something which I want to do." That's when we first started another product. It was called Sales Handy. It was in the same company, but then we separated part. I had a co-founder then named Piyush. We separated part. Piyush took over Sales Handy. I took over Software Suggest, and then now by this time, and I think this happened in December 2016. By this time, I had some idea as to how to build SaaS product. We wanted to do something which was very big. We thought we'll enter a market which is really really big. Software discovery in India was not very big market, and at the same time I was also facing problem with call center software in my own organization. We decided that we will do CallHippo and try to build a software for the new generation of agents which were coming in. We tried to improve. The initial idea was to improve UI UX and make the software very simple. The old generation of call center softwares or telephony software very complex. That's how we landed into CallHippo. We have been doing it for about I think 8 9 years now.
Great. So I think one of the best way to start up is scratching your own niche, like solving your problem for yourself and finding people who are like facing similar problems and selling to them. But how was this building a SaaS as a like non-tech founder is very difficult, and again that too in like building in a telephony space is very difficult, right? Because the tech is very complex. You have to understand all the providers, their technology stack and then build on top of that. So how did you overcome that challenge?
So there are two different questions in this. First one is, how did we actually build a SaaS product without a technical co-founder? I don't think it is very difficult. I think it is more about people management. And I believe that even when we were 20 people, I used to ensure that I have at least 3-4 hours in a day free. I don't do repetitive tasks. I have team members who can actually do the task for me, and I can spend a lot of time thinking as to what needs to be done next. I'll tell you a small story why this was built. So I had a friend who was doing about 300, 400 crore rupees in turnover then, and he told me a story. He told me, if you work, this is in Hindi actually. He said, "अगर सुबह से शाम तक काम करोगे तो तरक्की कब करोगे?" And this was something which stuck with me. I did not really want to work. I work more than 10 12 hours in a day, but I did not really want to be on the computer and keep doing repetitive tasks. And that's when I understand it's more about the team than knowing engineering yourself. And we could actually get a good team together to manage the engineering portion of it. As an organization, we are very team centric and stakeholder centric. We think that team members are our first stakeholders, which we need to satisfy, or we need to take care of. Because of the culture of the organization, we never felt the need to have a CTO or someone. Of course, we have a CTO, but we never felt the need to have a co-founder who is a tech co-founder in the organization. So that was first question. Second one was, why did we do telephony? I mean, I don't think I'll do it now. There was this curse of knowledge which was there. We did not know how complex it was, and we just went ahead doing it. That's how we did telephony. If given an option now, probably I will not do it. It's too complex.
So I think I'll go back to the team building part. Who was your first hire like when you started Software Suggest?
We have a team member called Bhavesh. He was our first hire. He is still with us. He had written the first line of code for Software Suggest, and now he is helping us build our new product, which is called ControlHippo. Another part, it's part of CallHippo. He has been our first hire.
And how did you convince him to join you?
Yeah, I think I have told you that story earlier. So I did not know anything about engineering. How did we hire was, I did not know even how to hire people. I got a list of about 70 engineers from a friend from monster.com. He probably had a subscription, or he had this list, and he sent it across to us. Now we started calling all these 70 people. We did not know what questions to ask them. So we'll just call them, and we'll find out whoever is ready to join us. We'll just ask them to come to office and give them an offer to join us. The initial 2-3 people which we hired, their objective was not to. Bhavesh was not among them. Bhavesh didn't know to code, but we had 2-3 people before Bhavesh, but we didn't really consider them as our team members. The initial 2-3 people we hired, their objective was not to code. Their objective was just to sit in office in front of a machine and give a perception that we are doing something there. We are just coding there. Had I called Bhavesh without any team member in office, he would probably not have joined the organization. He said that these guys are crazy. They don't know anything about engineering, and they still want to do something around building a tech product. So we made these 3-4 people sit. The first team member was actually a reference from my mentor then. This guy comes to office, he thinks that we are doing good work, and we created some dummy discussions and a feeling of the organization doing some good work, and that's how we could convince him to join the organization.
Going forward, what all learnings do you have around hiring? Like what right now, like what philosophy do you have around hiring people?
So the philosophy keeps changing. I mean, the talent environment keeps changing. At different point, the philosophy needs to be different. But one thing which we have always followed is that we don't work with anyone unless we think we can work with this person for the next 10 years. So unless we are completely happy and we think we see a 10-year future with the person, we will not hire that person. It doesn't mean that we work with them for the next year. We might work for 2 years, 3 years, but whenever we are hiring someone, we ask this question: do we want to work with this person for the next 10 years if given an opportunity? And if the answer is no, we'll not hire that person. If the answer is yes, we go ahead and hire the person.
Has there any learnings around like there you have made a mistake about hiring someone?
A lot of learnings around making mistakes around hiring someone. Earlier, I think one thing which is very prominent is that earlier we used to hire people without giving them proper objectives and without understanding their proper role. So we'll find someone who we know, and generally this happened in case of people we knew. So we will have someone who we know. We have been building relationship with that person for the last 2-3 years, and suddenly this person is available for to be hired, and we hire them without understanding the objective, without taking interviews, just because we have this relationship. Eventually we realize that it doesn't work. It is better to hire people with clear KRAs, OKRs, and even if you know someone, it's better to take them through an interview round before hiring them. I think that has been our biggest learning around hiring.
And in your venture, I think your wife is your co-founder. So how did that happen? And like how is like having your life partner as your business partner work?
So Asni is a qualified chartered accountant and company secretary, and she takes care of operations for us. When when Piyush, who was our ex co-founder, moved out, there was a need for someone in office to take care of a lot of things, and that's why Suhasini joined. It has been very really exciting until because we have two of us, it makes things simpler. We One question people ask is, how do you manage being married and being in office? The answer is that we don't talk much about work. She has her own areas to handle. I have my own areas to handle. Even after office or in office, we don't really talk much. We let each other do whatever we are responsible for.
So how did you convince her to join you?
She is, as I told you, she is a chartered accountant and company secretary. And because being a chartered accountant, company secretary, it did not really make sense for her to spend most of her time at home. She took some gap when we had our first and second baby, but then she was always up for working. So I did not have to do much of convincing.
CallHippo does like has a lot of global customers. So how did the initial journey of CallHippo started? Like who were your like initial first customers, and then how did you scale it to a global audience?
So after doing software suggest, one thing which we realized and understood that was that we understand search engine optimization. And even when we were building CallHippo, we said our primary channel for customer acquisition is going to be search engine optimization. We never tried to do referrals or get affiliated customers. We were always focused on getting customers through search engine optimization. In fact, we started marketing the product and doing search engine optimization around CallHippo even before we started engineering the product. Our engineering of product, I think, probably started around 1st of October, but we were marketing the product from 15th of September itself. And we launched the product, we launched CallHippo, I think around 10th of January, but we did not really wait for the product to launch and get validation from customers. We started marketing it much before we could launch it. And we have changed this in the last 1 year. We are doing more of ABM, SDRs outbound in the last 1 year. But for the first 6, 7 years, we were all spray and pray, where we will try to reach a lot of audience through search engine optimization and performance marketing and try to convert as many of them as we could.
So I think one thing is very common across all the products that you have built is like software suggests, call hippo, control hippo, is that you give a very good focus on search engine optimization. So can you walk us through like key steps that you take when, let's say, building a new product or going, how do you go about marketing a new product?
Then no, like I will not be able to tell you exact key steps because like it's mostly about search engine optimization for us, and search engine optimization keeps changing. The techniques of search engine optimization keeps changing. I can tell you that it's not very difficult. Everything which you have to do around search engine optimization is available online. I spent like 36 hours continuous to understand how to market my own product, and anyone can do that by spending 36, 50 hours online and trying to study and read. There's a lot of patience, perseverance, and commitment which is needed, which lacking, and that is the reason most organizations are not able to achieve success with search engine optimization. It will take about 3 to 6 months before you start seeing early success, and most organizations and most founders don't have that patience, and that is why we are not able to implement it. Because your question was around these steps, I don't think the steps are finding what the steps are going to be are major is a major challenge.
If you can lay down, let's say, how does your team go about creating a content strategy? How to
So
distribute that content?
distribution is very simple for us. Distribution is going to be on Google. Now, how to lay down the content strategy? The first step is to find out your primary keyword. So, if my product is called Hippo, then my primary keyword is virtual phone number. Now, once we know, and this you will eventually come to know when you search your competitors. You can search your competitors online. You will come to know what your primary keyword is. Once you know your primary keyword, you start creating content around those primary keyword. You will create different type of content like what is a virtual phone number, how to buy a virtual phone number, which are the countries where virtual phone numbers are available, and create these content. You use tools like Ahref, and then there are tools like SEMrush which will help you create these content and help you optimize these content. Now, while you're doing this, all these tools will actually suggest you other keywords which you can work on. So these tools will automatically give you many other keywords from your one keyword which you know from by doing competitor research. Once you get the other keywords, you start creating content around these different keywords. Ultimately, I mean, over a period of time, you will have 100, 200 articles around a particular topic. Helps give you topical authority. So Google starts feeling that you have, but your content quality has to be excellent as something which has to be there. Once you have like 200 articles, 100, 200 articles, Google starts feeling that you have some topical authority around that content. Once you have some topical authority around the content, it helps you rank on Google.
So once, let's say, you create this content strategy, you start getting traffic, then how do you convert that into a customer pipeline?
So the first step is getting people on your website. Once people are there on your website, then there is, you make them fill form on the website. So that is called traffic to sign up conversion. The traffic to sign up conversion can vary anywhere between point maybe 1-2% to 3-4% on anyone's website. We have a team which focuses on increasing this traffic to sign up conversion rate. Once a person has signed up, let's say 100 people come to my website through the search engine optimization, and we are able to get a on an average 2% traffic to sign up conversion rate. So I'll not say 100. Let's say 10,000 people have come on in a month. Out of these 10,000 people, 200 people will sign up on our website, on CallHippo's website. Now the next step is to activate them. Activation can be different for different companies. For us, activation is them using free trial. Let's say for us, the activation is them using free trial for 3 days. Now, out of these 200 people, we will try to get a maximum number of people to try free trial. We do a lot of optimization around that. We'll try to make our free trial easy to use. We'll try to add onboarding on the website where we explain them the product. And when we started Callipo, we had a video of my co-founder Suhasni explaining them what the product was. Second step is activation. Once they have activated, you will try to convert them, get a sale out of it. There are multiple steps in between. I don't think the more you go in depth, there are other steps as well. But then the third main step is to get them to convert and buy your product and subscribe to your product.
Earlier, it might be like very small ticket size, so people would subscribe on their own. But now the product has grown, so you might be closing larger deals. So in closing larger deals, what kind of sales strategies do you apply?
When we started Nikunj, we did not have any sales team as such. Our support guys were our sales guys, and we called it assisted sales. In fact, we did not even call it assisted sales. It was something. It was I think probably support guys were only assisting customer, telling them what the product is, and whoever wanted to go and buy went and bought the product. Then the ticket size was really small. Then we said we will do assisted sales. In assisted sales, we had people who were sitting in chat, who were in office, trying to solve query but of customers. At this point, support was different, sales was different, two different teams. Earlier, support used to do sales, trying to solve queries and get sales. There was no hardcore sales, hardcore follow up with customers, and there were no deals being created on our CRM. From inside sales, from these assisted sales people, we moved to, and which we did in the last 1 year, we moved to dividing team into SMB team and mid-market team. Last year, we started proper follow-ups on deals and improving product marketing, improving the collaterals which we had around sales. Now we don't sell to single users. We let them come to the website and buy it themselves. Our sales process has evolved. Now we are also setting up an enterprise team which will only focus on enterprise deals. One thing which I tell to my team is our SMB team has a sales velocity of 1 week. If a deal is created, it usually closes in 1 week. Our mid-market team has a sales velocity of about 3 months. If a deal is created today, it will close in the next 90 days. The enterprise team will have a sales velocity of 1 year. So they will close deals in 1 year's time.
So what are some of the lessons that you learned around sales, like when it comes to software sales? Because you come from a like SoftwareSuggest background, you might have a lot of insights in terms of how different companies sell. What are your top insights when it comes to software sales?
I think selling mid-market and enterprise is better than selling SMBs and SOHO customers. SOHO is small office, home office. So always focus on mid-market and enterprise. I also think that there's a right time you will reach mid-market and enterprise. Had we started selling to mid-market and enterprise 4 years back, probably our product was not ready, our team was not ready, our support was not ready to handle mid-market and enterprise customers. But the sooner you can get to mid-market and enterprise customer, the better it is for you. There's a lot of churn when you sell to SOHO and really small businesses. When you sell to mid-market and enterprise customer, you can see expansion in your users and MRR which you are getting from these customers, and that will actually help you grow the organization.
So you mentioned about churn. So right now, how do you handle churn across your products?
We try to handle churn in a couple of different ways. Ultimately, I think, and this is something which I think all company understand, is that the only way to handle churn is let go of your small customers and focus on mid-market and enterprise customers.
So focus shifted from small customers to mid-market customers, and then eventually you would notice that the churn is reducing.
In our mid-market and enterprise customers, we have a very high net retention rate, but in our small customers, we have like positive churn. So the net retention is not very good.
And how do you apply all of this to the new products that you launch? So let's say you recently launched Control Hippo. So what is the mindset there, and then how do you go about building that?
ControlHippo, we are not trying to close small customers at the very outset. At the very outset, we are very focused on mid-market and enterprise customers. We don't do SOHO at all. We do small businesses as of now because we are in the engineering phase. But then we have been, even in ControlHippo, we have been moving up market. Eventually, we'll end up doing only mid-market and enterprise in ControlHippo.
So is that shift like difficult, or do you think it would be easy? Because like once you start building a product for keeping like a small and medium customers in mind, then there are a lot of things that like mid-market customers or enterprise customers would expect in terms of, let's say, security, trust, all of those things, right?
I hear from a lot of people that moving from small businesses to mid-market and enterprise is difficult. For us, moving from small business to mid-market and enterprise was not very difficult. We had a lot of things. So we as an organization have always been focused on support, tickets, and customer success. I don't look at, as a CEO, I don't look at sales myself. Number of tickets which has been generated, number of what is happening with my NPS is something which I have been very focused on. In fact, my engineering team has targets like number of tickets generated per week. At one point we had like, and then we were very small. We were much smaller than what we are today. At one point we had about 25 tickets generated per week, and I told my team I want to get it down to 5 tickets per week. We got it down then, and even today we are at 5 tickets per week when the number of customers have increased drastically for us, and we have also added enterprise customers. 5 tickets per week is not support tickets. We get a lot of support tickets, which will be because the customer is not able to understand what the product is, or because the customer wants some help. But 5 tickets is technical tickets where there is some edge case or some bug or something which is there, which has to go to the tech team. So we are very clear that we don't want our tickets to go to the tech team. If there is something which is going to the tech team, it needs to be closed. And probably because of that, I think we could easily serve enterprise customers. In fact, something which we are observing now is that a lot of our features which were not used earlier, a lot of our enterprise customers have started using. There's something which is called sticky agent, which is not there with my competitors, which is something we sell. We built this around 1.5 years back. It was not in-depthly used in the last, like before 6 months, but last 6 months we have seen our enterprise customer come back to us and give us improvements and suggestion on sticky agent. And there's so many features which we have, which we had actually built for enterprises. We did not know that enterprise and mid-market is going to be the right segment for it. We built it. Not many people were using it. Now that we are closing mid-market and enterprise customers, we see the users of these features having increased. Now, what is happening with us is because these mid-market and enterprise customers did not have access to a lot of features in our competitors, they eventually start liking the product, eventually give us higher NPS, and as a result, we don't face any challenge respect to onboarding mid-market and large customers. We just onboarded a company which has about, it started with about 250 users in the first week. We did not expect it, but in the next week itself, they added about 100 another users, and second week we had another 100 users. So they have about 450 users with us, and the entire onboarding was done in less than 1 week's time.
So I have multiple questions. The first question I'll start with is the product building process, right? So you mentioned that some features were not used and now they are getting used. So how do you actually go about building the product roadmap and prioritizing what to build first and what to build next?
So I think it should always be that you build an MVP, give it out to customers, and build around customers' feedback. Whatever your customer wants you to build, you only build that. That's the only method. But being founder, sometimes the founder bias starts kicking in, and as a founder, I'll start, and I try to control it as much as possible. I used to do it more 10 years back. It reduced 5 years back, but still there. It must be the lowest now. But then eventually, as founder, you will come back and you will suggest that this being an exciting idea, and you will ask your team to go ahead and build that feature. I think some of these features were built because that founder bias came in and founder excitement came in. I suggested my team, I should not have done that. I should have waited for customers to give me feedback and build only things which customer really wanted. But then some of them are now being used, so I'm okay with it.
Okay. So my next question is related to that, right? So you mentioned that you don't look at sales numbers, or you only focus on customer success, support tickets. So it becomes very difficult to like as a founder, like I used to get involved in everything, and right, and that sometimes becomes a problem that okay, founder is involved in everything. So it depends on how what kind of company culture you create and organization structure that you create. So how do you go about like creating that kind of a culture where there is a separations of responsibilities, boundaries, and then still as a CEO you have full visibility?
So I don't get involved in anything, and that is something which we followed since we were like 20 people team. So even when we, as I told you in the first half of this podcast, so even when we were 20 people team, I did not want to take responsibility of anything. Couple of reasons probably. One is I think if, as I told you, if you keep working all through the day, you don't really get time to think and you don't really get time to understand what you want to do next. The other problem is that when I was 20, we had a 20 people team, and I'm okay doing any sort of work. Whenever something went wrong, I will go in that team and try to solve that problem in that particular team. The other thing which I think is that as a founder, if I get involved in every single thing, then I'm only delaying the decision making, and so I do not want to delay decision making. And one thing which I think very strong is that as a mid-sized organization with 150, 200 people, around 200 people, a lot of decision we take is not on data but on gut. And when founders think that their presence is needed to take decisions, essentially they are telling their team members that my gut is better than your gut, and that is not something which I believe. I think that my team member's gut is better than my gut. Again, I have some personal theories around it. So whenever a team member comes to me, or whenever there's discussion is there, let's say I have my sales head, and I always tell him that so I will tell my sales head or that he has been thinking about that particular problem 24/7. He has spent at least 50 hours thinking about that particular problem, and when he comes to me, I take 5 minutes and try to give him suggestions, solutions, decisions around that particular problem. And I always tell my team that their gut is better because they have spent 50 hours thinking about it. My gut is not as good because I have only spent 5 hours thinking around it. So that is why I let my team do decision making. If they are doing decision making, they own the decision, and I don't have to be involved in any process. I don't even look at sales and customer success myself. And it's not that I don't look at sales number at all. I look at sales number every week, but I am not involved in day-to-day decision making. I am not, when the customer is closed, I come to know. Sometimes I come to know a month after the customer is closed in our monthly meeting. But when a customer gets support ticket and the customer is important, they are in our customer success bracket, I'll come to know as soon as these tickets get raised. So I'm involved in support and success on a day-to basis. I am involved in sales on a weekly or monthly basis. And how we maintain, how I am able to understand what is happening throughout the organization is by reporting. So even though we are just a 150, 200 people team, the kind of reporting which we follow is very strong. We have reports for almost every single thing. We try to convert almost every single thing into numbers, but whatever spoils my sleep or whatever makes me worried has to be converted into numbers. And those numbers are shared across the organization every Monday in our Slack channel. And that's how I'm able to have an overview of what is happening in the entire organization and control things.
And you say like everything has to be numbers. So do you maintain a dashboard which basically gives you visibility across all of the departments and
We do something around dashboard, and we do a lot of things on Excel sheet as well. We don't really want to spend time building dashboards. It delays process, but and Excel sheets are good enough in a lot of places. So we need things like how many words are written by my content writer per month, what is the average words written. We know things like how many tickets is being solved by one agent per month, what is the deviation. We know what our NPS is, we know how much customer success, how much CSAT which we are getting. We know average time which is being taken to qualify a lead. We have done things like, for us, one lead needs to be called twice, and we have created automation where if one lead is not being, first time you connect up to a customer, that customer is not, or lead, lead is not picking up call, another task automatically gets created. So there's a lot of automation, a lot of control which has been built, and lots of report which is there, which helps us control the entire process. Not necessarily on dashboards and Power BI. A lot of things are done also on Excel.
now I want to switch to a little bit of personal side. So how your life has improved over this period of time? Of course, like you made good amount of money throughout this process, throughout this journey, and then you've also surrounded yourself with people who are as smart as you, or smarter than you. So how has that evolved, and like what is your thought process around that?
Being very transparent, there was a lot of trouble, or there was a lot of I was a lot scared about my financial safety in the initial days. I had to make sure that my kids go to a decent school and don't have to suffer financially. So I used to be a lot scared, probably around like pre-corona. Because we are bootstrapped, I did not have to sell my equity. We started making some profits around 2020, and I could actually take some money out of the organization as distribution and build a financial safety for myself. I can tell you, once you have financial safety, the thought process becomes a lot different, because you don't have to worry about feeding your family for the next. I don't think I have to worry about feeding my family unless I do something really stupid with the money which I have saved. I don't have to worry about feeding my family. And once thing is off your mind, you start thinking differently. You start thinking about progress. You want to take higher risks. You want to grow faster. And I think that happens with everyone. So that would have happened with Steve Jobs. That would have happened with Dipendra Goyal. And I think that happens with all founders. And if you have heard Maslow's need hierarchy theory, Maslow's need hierarchy theory exactly says the same. The first need of a human being is food, shelter, and eventually they start going up, and then there is self-esteem, and then there are other needs which come in. And that's how the founder's life is also. When someone is starting up something, the first need is going to be food, shelter, and safety, security. These are the first two levels on Maslow's need hierarchy theory, and that's what my apprehensions and my needs were also. But once you have crossed that, you start thinking how to build a bigger organization, how to ensure that all people around you are actually benefited from whatever you are doing. As an organization, I see that is also reflecting in the organization. Last 1 year, we have become very aggressive. We are hiring left, right, and center. We want to make a bigger organization, and an organization will last for about 300, 400 years is what we want to try and do now.
How did that thought process came up from earlier mindset to this mindset?
So earlier, I was very focused on ensuring that I have this financial security and safety. But once you start having that, you start getting bored. So for, I think, until 2020, I did not really have much of financial security. After 2020, there was some financial security started building in. For 1 year, I did not play much around with that security. I did not take much risk. But then eventually, you start realizing that there is only a certain amount of money you can spend. You cannot spend more money than what you want to spend. I have a very basic, simple lifestyle. I don't spend much on my clothes. I like holidays, but it's only so much you can spend on a holiday also. And eventually you realize, what do you do with all the money which is coming in your bank account, or whatever money you are generating. And that same thing happened with me. And then I started feeling that I can take more risk, and I need to create something which is larger than me, or which is larger than whatever I have been doing, or which can exist for a couple of years. I went to this phase 1 year where I was very comfortable with my life. I did not know want to take much risk. Then also I had a couple of friends who have been motivating me from the industry. Eventually, when I started growing the organization, I started making friends who were more successful than me, and they made me realize that I can do better things with my life. And that's how we entered this new phase where we are trying to go much faster than what we had ever grown in our organization's life.
So one thing most of the startup focus on is like raising money, right? And you have consciously made choice that you want to remain bootstrap. So there are two aspects to it, right? One is personal choice that okay, I don't want to be controlled by somebody, or I don't want to give equity. But then there is other aspects where like you want to attract good people, and then they also expect some kind of partnership through ESOPs or some mechanism. So how do you balance between these two?
So it's not that we have not given ESOPs. We give ESOPs. We give ESOPs to a lot of team members. So that ESOP thing is not there. But then what we realized is that you raise funds only when you know what to do with the money which is coming in, and you raise funds only when you know that you can grow the organization multiple x in a year's time, which cannot be done without funds. As I mentioned, about 2 years back, we did not really want to go the organization 2 3x in a single year. We're growing at 30 40% year on year, and pretty happy with it. And we don't not know how to use that money, which if we had raised fund, we did not really know how to use that money. We were very conscious with the way we hired. We wanted ROA out of almost every single thing, and we were not running parallel multiple experiments. We will run two experiments, wait for it to give, because experiments need investment. We will run two experiments, wait for it to give results, and then start another experiment. That has changed now. Now we are running parallel multiple experiments. We are taking risk and doing things where we think the ROI might be low but can still give us ROI, or the chances of ROI, we are still focused on ROI, but the chances of ROI might be low. But if it is successful, it will give us ROI. So now we are doing all those investment. Now I am also open to raising funds. If we burn all the cash, which we are not doing as of now, if we burn all the cash or we become cash flow negative, we are very open to raising funds now. It might not happen in the next 6 months, but then reiterating, if we start burning cash, we are okay raising funds.
One thing you have been very vocal about is importance of mentors, and I think you mentioned couple of people who you consider as a mentor. What is like for a founder? Like how do they go about finding a good mentor?
I think I have learned a lot from my mentors, and one interesting portion part is that most of my mentors have also been my friend. I think this is the best way of mentorship. Instead of having someone who is 10x ahead in your journey, best not higher, best to have someone who is one or two steps ahead in the journey. So if someone is one or two steps ahead in the journey, they are able to identify with your problem and are able to give you answers or help you find answers from their memory, which is fresh. If I have someone who is 10x ahead in my journey, they will not identify with my problem because they have left that problem long back. Also mentor someone who is just one or two steps behind you. Now don't mentor someone who is 10x behind you, 10x steps behind you, because again you will also not identify with that person's problem. How to find mentors is keep meeting people in events. My current set of friends and mentor, they're very close, and they are people which I met in events. Become active in, if you are doing SaaS, become active in SaaS Boomi. Try to volunteer in SaaS Boomi. When you are volunteering in SaaS Boomi, you'll meet a lot of people, and there are some people who you will actually start enjoying with. You will feel comfortable talking to, and then they end up being your friend as well as mentor. I live in Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad has a community called eChai. Start attending those meetings, and eventually you'll meet people who you like talking to, are ahead in the journey and can help you grow.
If you were to describe like most exciting moment of this journey so far, what would it be?
I think the most exciting moment is now. As a founder, when growth always excites, we started in this new journey of selling to mid-market and enterprise last November, and after about 12 months, it has started showing colors. We are seeing results now, which makes us happy. It is giving us the confidence that we can grow multiple folds in the coming years, and I think that's the most exciting part for us.
And what scares you, given the current scenario in the market and all the advancements, the way software development is changing with the introduction of AI building tools and stuff like
I think what scares me is AI, because that is something which we don't know. There's some people who think engineering will go engineering, and I'm sure the world is going to change with AI. How is something which no one is able to predict? So it's not such a big scare. I also see it as an opportunity, but that is something which might keep me worried or create some worry in our business plans and future plans.
that. And how are you leveraging AI currently?
So we have made AI as part of our product. We are also working on some products which will be only around AI, around communication. In CallHippo and ControlHippo, we are doing communication. So we are trying to make communication easier with AI. I think only time will tell how it shapes up.
If you were to go back again, back in 2009, just right after college or right after your first experience being part of family business, what would you do differently to start this journey?
I will not join my family business. I'll probably work in an organization, maybe for 3 to 5 years, and only then start up. I was just lucky, but when you work in an organization 3, 5, 10 years, your chances of becoming successful as a founder increases multiple folds. So yeah, I'll do that.
What are your top three advice to anyone who wants to start up today?
First is AI is a very good market. I mean, I think it's the right time to be in the SaaS or software industry. If you have, and you should be around AI, that is one. Second thing, we as an organization, we have been very people focused. We have been very stakeholder focused, and in stakeholders, our team members come first. Only if you are able to take care of your team member, ensure that your team members grow in the organization, ensure that you are happy, ensure that they are happy, the organization is going to grow. If your team members are not happy, then we do very small things. We don't call employees, we always say team members. Our email address is called happiness. Our HR email address is called happiness. Other things which we do is we give 0.5% of our revenue to charity, which we have been doing it for about 8, 9 years, and that's ensuring that everyone around us, all stakeholders around us, and even charitable organizations are stakeholders for us, are benefited from this organization. So unless you have a clear thought process and you are ethical and you want to ensure that all the stakeholders around you are actually benefited, I don't think any organization is going to become big. That's the worst. Second thing. Third thing is that it takes a lot of hard work, patience, perseverance, and commitment to become successful. I don't do it now, but at one point I was almost the only thing which I think was this organization. Even today it is that, but I take some breaks on Saturday, Sunday now. But I think 5 years back, the only thing which was I had moved to Ahmedabad in 2013. For about 5 years, I did not have any friends in Ahmedabad because the only thing which I was doing was this organization. So unless you are ready with that commitment, I will suggest not to start something.
Actually, one bonus question that I asked in all the podcasts is how do you keep yourself informed, or what kind of books or resources that you prefer to when you want to learn something?
So I read a lot of books. I think my early knowledge came from books. A lot of knowledge comes from talking to people. The mentors which I am telling you, and going to conferences, talking to random people, and trying to understand what they are giving gives me a lot of knowledge. Podcast is something which I've recently started. I started podcast around 2 3 months back, and I just love Nikhil Kaman's podcast, which has been there. A lot of learning in those podcasts. One of my favorite authors is Dan Ariely, who has written Predictably Irrational. It's a book around psychology, but I think it teaches you a lot around marketing. Atomic Habits is also good, and then Psychology of Money is something which I have learned. Another book which I am reading again is Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad like way back about 20 years back. Now I'm reading it for my kid. I want to read it again and teach my kid the importance of saving money and building assets. So yeah, books have influenced me a lot.
So, with that, we will pause this episode, and we wish you all the best for building a very large organization that lasts for next 100 200 years. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights with us. And everyone who is listening to this episode, hope you have found the value. Please share this episode with your friends, family, whoever finds it interesting, insightful, and do give us your feedback and comment about the next founder you want to be part of this podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikunj.